It's J Rod. I'm here with Zach Scheit. Zach, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. Man, we just wrapped up the first quarter, ready to kick off another quarter. Lots going on in the market, lots going on family-wise. We've got Easter weekend coming up. It's a good time, man.
It is a good time, and it's good to highlight that, given all the craziness that we've seen in the last month. But as always, Zach, happy to sit down here with you today and cut through all the noise to just what we need to be focusing on. And you're the best guy to do it. What's well, again, so much to cover.
Sure.
What's foremost on your mind?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question, because I would say foremost on my mind is kind of what you were alluding to. Right now, we've got a lot of reasons to be thankful for our many blessings. And, as a father of 7 kids, every time one of my kids comes home from college and we get to give him or her a hug, or, I was telling you offline a second ago that we got a new puppy at our house. So that's bringing us some joy. And it's just a good reminder that with all the crazy things that are going on in the market, and we'll talk about them and we need to be aware of them, just to keep the things that are most important in our lives front and center. And, so maybe that's just a little personal note or encouragement to you guys out there. We all have lives, we all have loved ones, we all have things that we can be grateful for. And so we want to make sure that we stay focused on those, even though there are risks that are coming up, and certainly things that are hurting our hearts when we look, and see what's going on in different places around the world. So just a little personal note there. When it comes to the market, and that's our focus today, is really what's going on in the market. The first thing that I want to talk about is inflation, which is, just the huge 900-pound gorilla in the room right now. Yet Tuesday of this week, we got the consumer price index, which showed an 8.5% increase over last year. So inflation, as most people measure it, is up 8.5% year over year, which is huge. We haven't seen this level of inflation since the 80s. It's something new that policymakers haven't had a chance to practice. How do you deal with inflation? Investors haven't had a chance to figure out what works and what doesn't work, because that was a generation ago. I was alive in the 80s and trying to pay attention. And many of you guys on this call remember those time periods, but many professionals right now didn't live through that time period. And so the market really is scrambling to figure out how to kind of handicap this situation. And then consumers, of course, many families have never had to deal with inflation before, not at this level. And so we're starting to see these new patterns emerge as far as how spending is going on. And this is an important area for us just to keep our eye on. On Wednesday, we actually had the producer prices index, which kind of tells you what businesses are paying for their raw materials or for services. And those were up 11.2% year over year. So again, some really big numbers. And those services were higher for goods. I'm sorry, the inflation was higher for goods than it was for services. So we have to understand that the tangible things that we buy are really going up in price right now. This is a really big problem for consumers, and it's a big challenge for some companies. So one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves as investors is, which companies will be able to pass on these costs to their customers so that they can continue to generate profits, and which companies don't? They basically have to pay higher expenses. They still get the same amount of revenue, which means their profits are getting squeezed or even going negative. Now, one thing that I think has been really interesting lately to see is that discount retailers Dollar Tree, which is ticker DLTR, and Dollar General, ticker DG, are both making new highs. And this is a little bit ironic right now, because these companies focus on providing cheap goods to their customers. So if prices are rising for what these companies are paying for their merchandise, it's going to be harder and harder for them to make a profit by selling them to their customers. So why are the stocks at all-time highs right now? Well, it's because they're getting a bigger and bigger customer base, because more and more people are seeing inflation hit, and they're saying, I need to buy cheap stuff. I need to, where can I buy something for a lower price, because I just saw the price go much higher in the store that I usually go to. And so these companies are picking up a lot more volume. And I think those are two stocks that right now the trend is positive, and those are a couple that you can use to actually help beat inflation in your own portfolio. Now, I was beginning to think that inflation might start to ease, and we might start to see kind of the supply chain problems that we've had ease up, but we're actually seeing some new challenges that are coming, and specifically these are coming because of China. So you probably have seen the news where China is putting through these rolling lockdowns in some of their biggest cities, where people can't get out of their apartment buildings, they can't go to work, they can't go get food. It's devastating, and it's actually very scary. And the Chinese government is trying to do everything they can to keep us from actually understanding what's really going on there. But it's a really scary situation for those, on a personal level. And then on a business level, it means that a lot of the companies that generate their products, that manufacture their products in China, are not able to get those products made and then shipped out to the United States. They're seeing their own, remember when we had all the ships sitting off shore in California? Now we're seeing kind of similar situations in China where their shipping ports are just clogged up because they don't have the workers to get products moving through. So this could continue to drive inflation higher because we've still got a lot of demand. People want to buy things, but we don't have the things available. So whenever you have a lot of demand and not enough supply, that naturally brings higher prices, which is basically what's happening with inflation. And then the Russia-Ukraine war is driving the price of energy sharply higher, as well as a lot of food stuff. So remember the core CPI number that takes out food and energy. It always cracks me up when you see like the CPI, which is your consumer price index, the inflation number. They'll say, oh, it's at let's see, what was it? 8.8%. I'm sorry, 8.5%. And then they say, oh, well, it's okay because the core inflation number that takes out food and energy, that was only up 7%.
Right.
J-Rod, I don't know about you, but my family still likes to eat, and we still have to take the kids to school, right, and we still have to heat our homes or air condition our homes during the summer. So food and energy is very much a part of what we have to pay for. So they like to strip that out because it makes the numbers a little bit smoother. But at the same time, what really matters is food and energy costs are going higher, and that hurts everyday consumers like you and me and all of you guys on this call. And I know that we've all felt that sting.
Right.
This is not going away. Unfortunately, even if we get a resolution to the Russia-Ukraine war, and it's not looking like we're going to see anything positive out of there anytime soon, even if we got something positive, we're still going to have sanctions on Russian exports for a long time to come, which means crude oil is going to be higher, which means wheat and other agriculture products are going to be higher. And we're even seeing prices for important elements like nickel move higher, which is a big problem for electric vehicle makers. So this inflation is pretty widespread. Russia and the Ukraine have a big influence on it. And while I think we may see crude oil prices pull back short term, that still doesn't mean that the problem is over. We're going to see a range that's higher than the range that we had before. So you still have some ups and downs. But at this point, there's not as much supply on the market. There's a lot more risk because of just the geopolitical things that we've seen. And so oil is going to stay a good bit higher. Now, as investors, I think that oil stocks look really good right now. And I'm talking about the companies that produce, transmit, refine oil and other petroleum products. One of the reasons that these stocks still look very good, even after we've known about this crisis for quite some time, is that while oil prices spiked sharply higher immediately, these stock prices didn't move up quite as quickly. And the reason is that investors were kind of taking a wait and see attitude. They were wondering, is this just a short-term spike in oil, or is this a long-term new trend? And if it's just a short-term spike in oil, then it means that the energy companies won't really be able to generate long-term profit growth. But now we're seeing that, no, this really is a long-term problem that we're going to have to deal with for a while. So all of this basically wraps up the inflation bullet here. And we just need to know that inflation is high. It's going to continue to be high. And as investors, we need to be investing in things that are going to do well during an inflationary period. And I just really appreciate you guys being on this call and the chance to kind of just share what we're seeing in the market each day. So J-Rod, that's what I've got prepared today. What do you think?
I think that sounds great. It's a really, I mean, you couldn't have summed up what's happening and what we should be looking at better, and to kind of round it all out, like you said, too, with all this stuff going on, we've got to really keep perspective take time to, be grateful for the good things we have going on.
Sure.
I hope you have a happy Easter yourself, Zach. I know you'll have, should be a nice full house at Casa Zach.
Yep. We've got family. The kids are coming back. It's funny having grown kids and getting everybody back under the same roof is a special thing indeed.
Right. I got two kids under 5, so we'll be a bit before we got that going on. But it'll be good to catch up with family.
Of course.
Wow. But yeah, Zach, thank you so much for your time as always. Let's do this again in a month.
That sounds good. All right. Thank you guys for being on the call. We appreciate you.